Be here by now, and now they're not. So, how's it been doing though? We good today?
Yep.
That was kind of pathetic. I know my voice ain't there yet. I'll get amped up, but we're gonna try again. Now let's pretend that only 2 people here aren't at work, right? Let's pretend we're all on vacation. We're all about to have a good time. Keisha just got back from vacation. I'm going on vacation on Saturday. Y'all are out of quarantine for maybe the first time in a damn year. Can y'all like be excited to not be sitting at home? Thank you. Okay. All right. So my name's DJ. We got Keisha up front here driving. Everybody say hi to Keisha.
Hi, Keisha.
Come along as my family and I take this 3-hour amazing city tour of New Orleans. Get to learn a little bit about the history of New Orleans, the real New Orleans. This city tour consisted of the Washington Artillery Park. We passed by the flea market. We got a little history of the Center for Creative Arts. We passed by the 9th Ward, the neighborhood that was devastated by Hurricane Katrina. We got to view some wonderful, beautiful mansions along Escalante Avenue. We also traveled past the Garden District, the Warehouse District, and Lake Pontchartrain, and the St. Louis Cathedral, and the St. Louis Cemetery. We got to see and learn a lot about the history of New Orleans. I hope you enjoy it.
Back in the mornings and also closer to the weekend. If you're here, like going Thursday, Friday, you'll get more selection for stuff that's out here. Then you got this big red building. That's the old U.S. Mint. It's currently the Jazz Museum, but that's the end of the French Quarter. Okay, that's literally it. That was the whole city for 100 years. Now we're going to pass one of the neutral grounds. That's this big median-looking thing right here. And we're going to be going towards the Spanish neighborhood, which would have been called Faubourg Marigny. So Faubourg is F-A-U-B-O-U-R-G. It basically means suburb, right? Every little neighborhood would have been called Faubourg blank after whoever owned the plantation prior. So Bernard de Marigny, Faubourg Marigny, right? Now, it's most famous for this street coming up on the right. This is Frenchman Street. Frenchman's where you go for like live music and good food and all that, you know, like go party and, you know, kind of do the thing. Anybody been down Frenchman Street yet? No? Okay, so here's the thing. We just got music back about 2 months ago, okay? And so a lot of the venues aren't open. A lot of the venues have limited capacity. So they anticipate a higher cover, and they anticipate them being very aggressive about passing the bucket around, you know, because you got to remember, musicians in New Orleans are not on the books a lot of the time. So that like extra $600, it was like, oh, all these lazy people that are out of work taking extra $600. Those musicians weren't getting it, okay? Like these guys were working and side hustling, and so you have all these musicians here, and that's what a lot of y'all come here for, but they're starting to have to leave because of like, you know, a year of a pandemic. So make sure you're taking care of the musicians when you're out. I've been asked by my server friends to make sure I plug for them too. Same thing with your bartenders and servers. Y'all know what servers in New Orleans make per hour? $2.13. You know what that is after taxes? 0. So if you ain't tipping them, they ain't getting paid, okay? So take care of your service industry, right? Just so y'all know, that way you're not basically coming in and just being like, you know, I mean, the easiest way to phrase it is we outlawed slavery 160 years ago. So make sure you're taking care of people and not making them work for free. Yeah, kind of fun there, right? People don't realize that. And that's these laws that have been in place for 160 years, to be completely real.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Now, we're getting towards we're going to get a lot of like street art. And like I said, we're an artistic musician city, man. Everybody here is either creative adjacent, you're going to shows, you're listening to music, everybody knows somebody. And so you're going to see a lot of cool art coming up here, especially if we get stuck in traffic. There's some really cool ones when you look back at the buildings, not quite like these ones. On the next block, there's some really cool pieces over here. And off to the left, there's going to be some really solid ones. And so we don't consider this like a blight, you know what I mean? We really, you know, we're basically all into this, you know, and it's actually really cheap. It used to only be $500 for a mural fee for your building, like $500 to get a mural painted, get it cleared by the city. Now it's only $50, right? So you could get anything non-obscene painted on your building for $50 as long as you know somebody willing to do it for you. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of rad. And you'll see all like the Caribbean colors on stuff too. Just like look back at these ones right here. You got some really good pieces on the back of these ones.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, that only cost me $50 to get that put on their building. Then you got a muck rock one right here. He makes some really good stuff too. This dude muck rock. He makes some really good photorealistic pieces. Yeah. Normally we're going too fast for y'all to look back at those ones, so I usually get to enjoy the graffiti over here, and you guys don't. Yeah. You know, and if you are really into this stuff, like there's a couple of Banksies in New Orleans. I could drop some pins for you guys to find. There's this dude Cobra that's out of Brazil that does these like geometric photorealistic pieces with a much like really
I've
vibrant
seen
colors.
him on TV.
Yeah, he did a Louis Armstrong one downtown that's freaking rad.
It's
not too far
downtown?
off the French Quarter. Yeah, it's about a block and a half from Canal Street.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You know
So
who
if you want
that
to go
is.
check that out, I'll see if I can pull up a picture I got of it, because I actually have a picture. I love that one. And so yeah, I'm really big in that stuff, so I always like point it out. And then if you are into the street art, you look to your left on the next couple of blocks, there's gonna be a ton of it. Let's see, where's that Armstrong? This one. There you go. People have been hit. That's what that is. Anytime you see a white bike, that's where somebody got hit and killed. That one's a dedication for people.
Oh.
Yes, like the solo ones is where somebody died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like when I'm talking to the Vietnamese population, though, these guys had political asylum, came down here because we got the same days of rain, inches of rain, temperature, soil conditions, humidity, and they can farm fish. They call themselves Viet Cajuns. They grow most of the rice for the U.S. using traditional techniques. And the crazy part is Vietnamese food already had a French base due to colonization. So you have like, Cajun food was French. They kind of coming back together, and it's really good. Then we have, like I was mentioning earlier, food halls. Food halls are mall food courts without the mall. So if you have a group and can't come up with what to eat or can't get reservations and just need some last minute, one of the first ones in the country is over here on the left. It's called the St. Rock Market. It's tucked behind the Rowdies. That's not the one that has the chicken joint though. The one with the good chicken joint is downtown, the Pike Market. This one currently has like an oyster bar, a Malaysian spot, Egyptian food, Italian, Mexican, bar, a sandwich shop. Yeah, right over here, the St. Rock Market.
Look, the St. Rock.
So
You
they're
see
good
it?
if you just can't come up with like what you want to eat. Then, if you want another good spot, you ask about fried chicken. If you want just good Southern food in general, you come over here to the corner to Moro's. So it's spelled like tomorrow without the T-O. All right, Moro's is one of the only lines in New Orleans I will wait in. I don't wait in line. I very much will there. So it's very important to support black-owned restaurants and businesses in the city that's statistically 2/3 black, right? They make amazing New Orleans barbecue shrimp, fried chicken, crawfish bread, red beans, all that stuff, right? Yeah, so always number one, gun to my head, one dish I had to pick, it's New Orleans barbecue shrimp, whole cooked shrimp, and you peel them and dip them in the sauce, you cook them, and they make a very good version there. Taking the party somewhere in the city, and you'll have people out dancing, drinking. They do a lot of good community work as well. But honestly, like there's a party every Sunday in this city. People are out in the streets, hanging out, knowing one another, eating, drinking. Walk from each room to each subsequent room. Mom and dad would have one room, kids would have the other, right? And so these were always signs of lower to middle income neighborhoods in New Orleans. They were actually so cheap you could get them out the Sears catalog at one point. And then you could have 3 or 4 families build houses on one lot, and it was a way to move up the socioeconomic strata.
Wow.
Right? So anytime you see neighborhoods with a lot of those, usually that meant that those were on the lower end historically. And then you already looking ahead at that big warehouse right there. No, where you were looking, don't look on the one with the mural on it coming up, right? Yeah, so
Beautiful.
that's Studio B. So B Mike is a local street artist, does a lot of stuff with like the Black Lives Matter movement, modern takes on
That
civil
is
rights history. He's
gorgeous.
doing work with Nike right now. This is his 3rd big exhibit. It's open Wednesday to Saturday right now. So you have to like book ahead of time, obviously, with like COVID protocols and all that. But so it's worth coming back if you're into street art. And he picked that location because it's right across from our civil rights mural institutions. You have the train for Homer Plessy, so Plessy versus Ferguson, where you get the separate but equal ruling, right? Homer Plessy got arrested on this corner. This is the old Press Street station on the next block. You have the 3 little girls, that's the McDonough 3. So when they desegregated the schools in 1960, those little girls didn't have water for a year because the Klan publicly threatened to poison a bunch of 6-year-olds. Then you have Ruby Bridges, which is when they desegregated the schools, one who went to school by herself. Now, for reference, I always like saying, not only is Ruby Bridges still alive, her teacher's like, I feel like the people being alive means it kind of is. You know, when you're talking about this is an active people's lifetime. So,
That's American history.
exactly, and it's current history. Like,
That's right.
You know, and people try to pretend it's not, but it
365.
very much is. And you know, there's no epicenter for the civil rights movement in the United States, obviously, but because of the demographics here, we would be a city that has a lot of the history of it here for sure. Okay, even up to like currently with like the Confederate statues removing and all that a few years ago. People always want to ask about that. And if you have a problem with that one, the thing is we voted on it. Not everything's gonna have a good story, guys. Sorry about that. But you'll see there's a park on the other side of the train, the flood wall over there. There is a way to get into it right outside of the French Quarter. There's a big set of stairs over, and then there's another set of stairs over here, and you could actually walk along it and have like the best riverfront access in the city to get here. And then if y'all see any of those signs that say like "Be nice" or "Leave" on them with all the dots and the stars, those are all made by this dude on the left, Dr. Bob. He describes himself as the world's angriest redneck. So he custom makes those. They're a cool piece of New Orleans art to take home. They're only $100 each for a custom thing. That's pretty rad, honestly. That's a dope rule to have in your house. Now, hours-wise, Dr. Bob is open every day from 10 a.m. to 4:20. At 420, there's something Dr. Bob likes to do, so he kicks everybody out. So you gotta know that. Oh, no. Like, it's 427. Dr. Bob is currently the world's chillest right now. Hurricane Katrina with the flooding and all that. Now, if you're on the tour to like take pictures of like dilapidated houses and all that, like the damage, you're like 13 years too late. Okay, Katrina was 15 years ago, and this ain't a zoo. Like, we're not leaving stuff. You know, people live here. Like, why would we have a bunch of dilapidated, derelict buildings for people to come take pictures of? And but it's not your fault. That's what you were thinking. It's just you didn't like finish the thought, basically, right? And so the one thing you'll see to notice damage is empty lots, right? You'll see houses that have been rebuilt or empty lots, and that's it. Now, the first breach on the levee was on the far side of that bridge, about 5 blocks up, is where the barge went through the industrial canal for the lower 9th ward. Lower means downriver. We're in the upper, which means upriver. So the lower 9th ward, the water at the levee would have been about 20 feet deep. It settled at about 14 in the neighborhood. Took 6 weeks for the water to drain over here. When the levees breached over here, water was coming in. At the levee, it was around 50 years. Yeah, then we're more Atlantis than Atlanta. Now, on this white building on the left, you're going to see some spray paint next to the door. So 9/12 means that house was checked on September 12th. Hurricane hit August 29th. So that's 2 weeks later. 0 and 0 is bodies and people. NE is no entry. And then the TFW in the middle was just Task Force W, the group that was checking it out. So every single building in the city would have had that spray paint on it. Took 2 weeks to get here. Took 6 weeks to get through the lower 9th ward, obviously, with all the drainage and all that. So, yeah. Now, if I gave y'all a piece of paper at the beginning of the tour and I said, write down 3 things you know about New Orleans, you're all going to say the same 3 things. You're going to say some combination of music, food, Hurricane Katrina, right? And here's the deal, like Katrina's a big event in the city's history, but it's not the only event. And culturally speaking, even as the food nerd, man, I'll defer. Music's the winner. Like, music's the thing that defines this place. You know, there's a bunch of good food cities, but there's nowhere musically that's as important as New Orleans. And so music tends to come from predominantly black neighborhoods in New Orleans, and the 9th ward was the most densely populated, predominantly black, lower to middle income neighborhood prior to the hurricane. So this area, the Musicians Village, was rebuilt with elevated housing. The Marcellus Center for the kids, which will be on the next corner, the playground, all this was redone to help kind of reestablish the neighborhood so music can come back to it, because that's what a lot of people identified New Orleans with the most. See, even the playground's got music.
I see.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. And the houses are so colorful.
And then if you're curious, these are not the Brad Pitt homes. The Brad Pitt homes, the Make It Right Village, is on the other side of the lower 9th ward. Those are those eco-friendly modern ones that Brad Pitt built for everybody, which unfortunately a lot of his contractors were taking those sweet FEMA bucks and not exactly doing things up to code, and those are starting to fail. And you have a bunch of people who are like lower to middle income who can't afford to fix an eco-friendly house. Which, I mean, it wasn't Brad Pitt's fault, by the way. He had no idea. That dude's not a contractor.
They got solar panels.
He tried to use his clout really well. Now, best example of what you're going to see of a house that hasn't been repaired in 15 years is on your left.
Oh.
Yeah. And agreed. And like Keisha's up here saying they need to tear that shit down, and we all kind of agree. But what that means is they can't figure out who owns it. Meaning it's probably... Exactly. Yeah, the person who owned it died, and either they're one of the unidentified bodies, or it got transferred to somebody in the family who doesn't know, right? And like legally it got shifted somewhere. And so that's exactly what that means, is that was definitely a victim of the hurricane, and we just don't know who the owner of the house is. Otherwise, we see empty lots. This all would have been cleared out after the fact. Talk about that. Now, the other cool thing about the Ruby Bridges story is I always like to say she volunteered. Like at 6, her parents actually asked her if she was down to do that, and at 6 years old, she like completely agreed to that. And I got twin 5-year-old nieces, and I keep telling them they're like behind schedule, and they need to do something interesting already. But so that's that building. Now they've updated the rest of the school, but they've kept the facade intact for the French and the Spanish. The Americans moved upriver. The wealthy French and Spanish moved up here towards the lake. And the term is Creole. Creole basically means no ethnic identity. French born here is Creole. Spanish born here is Creole. French and Spanish. French and black. Spanish and black. Italian. Creole just kind of means mixed, honestly. Now, people think Creole means French and black because we had what was called plissage here in the 1700s. Rich dudes were allowed to take a second wife if she was between 1/8 and 1/2 black. You could actually have a second wife, according to the Catholic. Now, over here you got what we call the Skittles houses. You can see why.
Oh, they're beautiful though.
Yeah. Wait for it.
You see it?
Nobody's gonna say anything about that green one?
It's leaning.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not kind of leaning, it is.
It is leaning. You see it?
So basically, yeah, in New Orleans, even the houses are drunk.
You sure can see it.
That's the high water table in action, basically. Wow. Yeah, things will shift and move.
Even that
and all
peach
that.
one.
They redid all of them post Katrina, yeah. Yeah. So this is over here, this is the Degas house. So Edgar Degas, the French impressionist, lived here for 10 months before he was ever famous. Did his first 2 commercially sold paintings here. Next corner, you'll have the Free People of Color Museum, just reopened.
These
And then there's
are big
another great
houses.
museum in the front of the Treme called the Backstreet Cultural Museum, which talks about like the Mardi Gras Indian culture and all that. So that's a really good one to check out too. And yeah, so when they basically, all the areas where the projects were, they tore them down, but then it's like the neighborhoods were rebuilt, and it's federally funded to get people back in the neighborhoods, but they also rent them to people just want to move in. It's kind of a weird thing because like I first moved into the old Magnolia projects without knowing it, and like I loved it over there, mind you, but it was just kind of really funny because everybody's like, "Do you not know where you are?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I didn't realize that they had redone it all like that, to kind of update the area. Yeah, live oaks and dead folks. Here's where all the cemeteries are too. So, yeah. Now, 2 weeks out of the year, this is where we host Jazz Fest. So 2 weeks out of the year, this is the spot, right? But the rest of the time, it's pretty chill out here. So you'll see Keisha's favorite house on the block is coming up on the right. This is the only house on the tour I have to talk about. Yeah.
That's a big house.
What? Oh, the Victorian architecture? Okay. So that's the thing. That architectural school, if you were going to call it anything, a lot of people use the term Victorian to describe it. The problem with Victorian architecture, there's no such thing. Victorian architecture is kind of like Creole. It's a time period. Victoria was queen for 67 years. There's 14 schools of architecture that fall under that term. Okay? Normally that one you're thinking like Tudor, right? With the 45-degree angles and pitched roofs, which is the most identifiable for a Victorian, just like how the most identifiable for Creole was like a French and black, right? So also Greek Revival, Romanesque, Second Empire, Italian Age, German, Swiss, Country Cottage, all those are considered like Victorian by definition. So it's just a broader term than you think, just so you know when we talk about Victorian architecture. And then since we mentioned Creole, let's talk about French food really quick, because there's a good French restaurant coming up on the right called Café Degas. Really good desserts, really good cocktails, and they got really good escargot. They built the whole thing around this like oak tree in the courtyard there. It's pretty cool. Have you ever had escargot? Snails. So here's the thing. If it's done right, it's great. If it's done poorly, it's like chewing someone else's bubble gum, okay? They got a good version of it. So.
What a description.
Because when you just like, when you taste something like that tastes like a penny, but you've never licked a penny. You know what I mean? But you're just like, that's like, yeah. I've never licked a penny, Keisha. So, the other term though for a group of people here is Cajun that I want to describe really quick. Cajuns were displaced French Canadians, the Acadians, who basically go from being Acadian, which is Acadian to Cajuns. They like mispronounce their way into being an ethnic group.
This is St. Louis Cemetery number 3. We got a brief look at the cemetery where you can see the city's above the ground tombs. We stopped at the city park to grab a quick bite of some delicious beignets at Cafe Du Monde and some delicious iced coffee.
I'm like, what the hell is that? So yeah, you'll see green space every other like little block. Then on your left, that's a levee. Ooh,
I've seen it.
Right, yeah. All levees are as hills, guys. I'm sorry to disappoint, but that's all it is. Sometimes there will be a wall on top. Right, you'll notice we're slowly climbing uphill though, like tick, 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 tick. We're gonna go over the levee in a second.
Wow,
so
look at that.
Yeah, and you can see like this one, there's trees on the far side. That's because this one's one of the canals going to one of the pumps.
This is
all right, now the levees did not breach on the river or the lake, only on man-made industrial canals. Prior to the hurricane, the pilings were supposed to be 40 feet deep. In some places, they found them to be 4 feet deep. All right? Yeah. And so here we go. We're going up over the top. Hands up. Hands up. We're going roller coaster. We're climbing. We're climbing. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah, top to bottom, the whole city is only like an 18-foot elevation shift. So this is like a freaking mountain in New Orleans right here. Yeah, so look at where the land's at over here. And look at where the water's at over there. Whoa. And that's how the whole city floods.
Wow.
So that's the Mississippi River. No, it ain't, girl. Come on, you fell for that twice. No, that's not. That is Lake Pontchartrain. Okay, yeah. So, yes. So Lake Pontchartrain.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I just like messing with people. We haven't caught that yet. I got one tour today. I'm gonna move. We're having a good time. Yeah. So this is actually Lake Pontchartrain. Now, you're not technically incorrect because it does still touch the Gulf of Mexico. So. But it's called Lake Pontchartrain. But so it is brackish water, which means salt and fresh. So you have alligators, alligator carp, bull sharks, stingrays, right?
Oh.
Yeah, if you see that bridge on the horizon, you'll see that bridge on the horizon. That's the longest bridge over water on the planet. It's the causeway. Yeah, it's about 24 miles in a straight shot.
Really?
Yeah, if you use. Orleans, like Gail Benson, who owned the Saints, this is where her house is. You can't get in without a car and an appointment, but if you rent bikes and time it, there's security guards
that's
super
gated,
slow.
look.
So you can ride right past them. Well, look at that, man. He ain't catching nobody. So then you got Tulane University over here on the left. This is our most famous university. LSU is in Baton Rouge, right? So Tulane's famous for like the medical program. They do tropical medicine. So if you're trying to get into like the philanthropy aspect of being a doctor, you know, like actually traveling, doing Doctors Without Borders, only 2 universities in the States do that. You have the business school, the dental school, and then the other one is the law school. And the weird thing about Tulane Law School is it's super famous, but it's actually kind of overinflated for importance, oddly. Now, before we talk about why, this is Loyola University, not the one from the Final Four, by the way. Now, when you're talking Tulane Law School, so where'd you guys say you were from up front here? You're from Illinois. Okay, where are y'all from? Texas. Okay, so let's say you're a lawyer in Illinois, you're gonna move to Texas, right? You have to take the bar again. Now let's say you're in New York, you want to move to New Jersey. Some places have like regional shifts and things like that, you know, to help, you know, like North and South Dakota and all that. And so you're good. If you're in New Orleans, you want to move to Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, or Texas, you actually have to go back to law school because every other state is under common law. We're under civil law. We're under a soft version of the Napoleonic Code, which means lawyers here, you have to have a guy. Every major firm has to have an outpost here. Every company that does business has to have representation. You know, we're under 300-year-old French law. Which actually makes the Tulane Law School kids, like the fraternity of them are really bad. They're not all bad, but the frat kids are terrible. They're like the bad guys in 80s teen comedies. No, I was at the bar and I got in an argument with this kid a couple of years ago, and he goes, "What do you know? You're just a tour guy." I go, "I know you couldn't get into college in 49 other states, but you know," and that's basically what the Tulane Law School kids like to think, because they think that they're like higher up than everybody because they went to Tulane. Like, nobody cares, dude. Like, you can't move. You're stuck here for life.
This is
No. Yeah.
I thought the
That's why
West End was
you don't
big,
ever
but
talk
this
smack
is
to strangers,
huge.
okay? Like, you don't know who's going to be funny at you. So yeah, now we're at the part where you see why people want to come and take the streetcar. So that's a good example of plantation style, even though those columns would technically be Greek, but fun fact, they're Corinthian columns, which technically means they were developed in Italy just before it was Italy. Cheapest house on the street that's sold in recent memory is that blue one right there. That's a blue lady. Just sold for $2.8 million. Now, yeah, who thinks that's cheap? Who thinks that's expensive? Okay, but you gotta remember with our cost of living, it is expensive for the people living here, but there's a very big gap between the high end and the low end here, you know? There's like a ton of room between. You're talking that there are people that like that one better. And these are all single family homes unless they obviously look like condos. Okay, so when you're looking around, unless something looks like it's multiple units, they are all going to be single family. For his wife as a wedding present, this was their vacation home. Okay, it was the largest cotton merchant in the country. This wasn't even an actual house. Yeah.
This?
Tell me that doesn't look like the Xavier Academy for Gifted Youngsters. Right, though? Looks like where like Lex Luthor lives or something, man. And here's one of our St. Charles streetcars, the big pretty green ones. So let's see how everybody's doing. Yeah. Look up. Okay. Yeah, they're actually pretty dead right now, which is good. Then you got Sacred Heart Academy, #1 girls' school for high school. If you graduate from there, you can get married in the courtyard. I know that sounds weird, but destination weddings are a very big thing here. Anybody ever been? Yeah, anybody here for a wedding? No? So if you get invited to a destination wedding and the address for the venue says St. Charles Avenue, come to that wedding because that open bar is going to be lit. That wedding is... Now, we're going to go by the biggest house in the area, though. Yeah, you could already see it. This is a house. It's called the Buckner Mansion. So the guy who built it, every son of Buckner, was a cotton merchant. Him and his business partner, Frederick Stanton, ran the largest cotton firm in the country. Now, Stanton built the largest house in the south of Natchez, Mississippi. It's called the Stanton Manor.
That
It's
is
huge.
huge.
And then he broke up their partnership, and Buckner was so hurt. How dare he, my best friend? He broke up our partnership. So Buckner got the same architect as Lewis Reynolds and said, Mr. Reynolds, let's just go bigger, right? And so he built this house. The partially submerged first floor is the most impressive part to me because that's hard to do now. That's almost impossible in the 1850s. It's got 20,000 square feet, 48 fluted columns, which represent wealth and power and virility, 6 bedrooms, 3 ballrooms. Okay, not bathrooms, ballrooms. He built it in 1858. He sold it in 1873 because that's when the other guy died. Okay, Buckner didn't want the house. He wanted a house so big the other guy couldn't claim biggest house. Remember when I said we are petty? Yeah, that was built out of spite. Okay, 1908 to 78, they have a business college in here, the Soule School of Business. Now it is, $5 grand a night to stay with a 5-night minimum. Prince, you stayed earlier, he was in town, or $100 grand a week to film here. It's the Coven House for American Horror Story Coven. You didn't recognize it.
Yeah, that's where, yeah.
So, yeah, 100 grand a week to film here. We good?
Yeah,
Cool.
we got it.
Yeah. 5 grand a night with a 5-night minimum to rent it, guys. Okay, yeah. So in case you want to randomly come back and take pictures of it, good news, even though we're considered the most haunted city in America, the buildings have a tendency not to move. Down some internal structure, a company here bought it and made it into a club. That's actual Eiffel Tower. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. So yeah, really quick, we are getting close to the end of the tour, which I know it's so sad. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Drink. So, drop offs. I hope y'all had a good time with us today. If you didn't, there's a problem. The tour's over. Too late to complain. So let's all thank Keisha for not killing anybody today.
I hope you enjoy this amazing NOLA city tour. Thanks for watching. Please stay blessed, kind, and connected. Bye.